our man James Ham here from the Insiders. James, we were just marveling over the incredible state that the Houston Rockets are in. Now, granted, they're down 0-1 in their series against Golden State. I like the Warriors in that series. We were looking at different players, saying maybe DeMar DeRozan is a nice fit for Houston. And then we stumbled upon the Fred VanVleet contract that's a club option, noting they could pick up the option with the idea of trading $45 million to land a big player of a player they don't even want.
Yeah, Houston's in a good spot. They also have a bunch of draft picks and a ton of young talent that isn't even remotely close to their ceiling yet. Yeah. So yeah, that they're OKC part 2. That's what it looks like at this point. And for right now, I think they've got a really good mixture of veterans and young players. And, you know, like whether that's going to be enough to get them out of the first round of the playoffs, I don't know. You know, the way the playoffs work is always very specific. You kind of got to go in, take your lumps the first time, and see how that goes. You know, you usually get beat up on in the first time you get to the playoffs. Sometimes you make it to the second round, but overall, it's usually a pretty big process of going first round, second round, and then who knows where. But that team is super well built and has a bright future.
One of the trades we were talking about, potential trades we were talking about, was because Houston kind of came up because I thought I watched them last night and I wonder if DeMar DeRozan would be a good spot, a landing spot for them. He kind of changes the game a little bit. I understand that with the whole mid-range thing, but they have enough defenders on that roster where you could kind of hide DeMar in that aspect. And I don't think you'd be scoring 34 points and a half if you had somebody like DeMar DeRozan that could get you a bucket, get to the line, and all this other stuff. One of the names that was brought up on the Sacramento side of it all, though, was, would you trade DeMar DeRozan for Dillon Brooks?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not a Dillon Brooks fan. I actually, like I said earlier today, like I wouldn't want to go into the Dillon Brooks business. But at the same time, he's younger. He's a much better defender. His jump shot doesn't go in like DeMar's, but he can shoot the three. He'll take a few more threes. He does bring an attitude and all that stuff. I mean, that's always, you know, it's tough because I just don't like the antics. And I don't think, you know, like there are antic players out there, but I don't think his actually have a positive influence on the court. So like Draymond Green is filled with crazy antics and motivational tactics that he uses. But his team's also won 4 championships and are, you know, moving along right now and could be a surprise 7 seed that advances in the second round, where Dillon Brooks is somebody who agitates and sometimes it just has a really negative effect on his team.
Is DeMar the most tradable asset that the Kings have? Does he have the most trade value for Sacramento?
Well, no, I mean, Keegan Murray still has way more trade value. I'd say even Malik Monk has more trade value because Malik's got 3 years left on his contract, although the last year is a team option. Oh, no, the last year's a player option. Yeah, when I look at, like, what do the Kings have to offer? I mean, Devin Carter there might be a group of people out there that would love to get their hands on Devin Carter. I don't know. But DeMar is he's sort of the guy, if you can't find someone to take on like Zach LaVine's contract, which I don't think the Kings can find somebody, nor do I think they want to find somebody to take on that contract. But if you can't, I mean, I think we can all agree that the best thing is to probably split up those two. So I think DeMar DeRozan is the most movable, like, big money contract the Kings have. And, you know, maybe, well, I would even say more movable than probably Malik Monk at this point, just because DeMar's got 1 year left, but then there's a $10 million buyout for the final year. And that's a pretty good contract for what you're going to get. I mean, he's still going to walk in and average close to 20 points per game. And if you're a team that just struggles to score, I would say it's not only a team like Houston, but a team like Orlando. that could really use like another scorer, a team like the Lakers, a team like the Miami Heat. All of these groups might look at, a way to find another scoring option, and the Kings might be looking to find just better fit type players.
A quick follow-up. Are we confident Keegan Murray still has a good level of value?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the worry that anyone would have is that you're going to have to go out and pay him. This offseason, he's extension eligible, but if not this offseason, then next offseason, you could always make him a restricted free agent and try to figure out what his value is on the open market. But yeah, I think Keegan Murray still has plenty of value. He's an exceptional defender. He's a guy that could start for a championship team. He's just not at this point going to be your first or second or probably even third option on a really good team. But in the right situation, he might find himself, becoming the scorer that he should have been in Sacramento.
I'm just looking at some of these guys that it's real specific. Like the same amount of years left on the contract, 20, anywhere between $20 to $25 million per year on the contract. It's a matchup with DeRozan. You're seeing guys, Andrew Wiggins makes 27 a year. RJ Barrett, 26. Obviously, you've got your Dylan Brookses, Kyle Kuzma, DeAndre Hunter, KCP, guys like that. Do you think they'd be able to get any of those type of players in a trade for DeMar DeRozan? Or would it have to be, maybe two guys that have lesser salaries, or maybe even lesser players? You think like a player for player type swap might be able to work, or do they have to come down on that asking price a little bit?
No, I think the Kings can find a taker out there for DeMar DeRozan's contract. I think you can also, we can talk about adding contract value to that. I mean, sacrilegious, but you want to throw Jonas Valanciunas' contract, all of a sudden you're up to $34 million in $34.5 million in contract. And that means you can go, well above 40 million to take a player back. There are a lot of ways in which the Kings can improve their roster this season. I know it seems pretty bleak when, again, they won the coin flip today. I don't know if you saw that. They did win the coin flip. Mm-hmm. So they're the 13th pick in the draft. Of course, if they stay at 13, it goes directly to the Atlanta Hawks. If they somehow move up, they get to keep it. But I think that a lot of people just like instantly think, okay, well, their offseason is doomed. If the only thing they have is a second round pick and they don't really have, you don't really have a bunch of players that you can trade. You do have some players, but again, there's actually value to having like a $8 million Trey Lyles contract when he's under contract. Once he's no longer under contract, you can't trade him for that $8 million worth of salary. And so I think that there are ways in which they've kind of hampered themselves because they don't have quote unquote like trade assets, right? But they will have things like the mid-level exception this summer, which is going to be, I think it's over 13 million this year. So you are going to have other ways in which you can add talent. You'll have the biannual exception. You'll have trades that you can pull off where you trade future draft capital. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. The right vision and sort of the right conversations can get you a long way in rebuilding this thing pretty quickly. And I think that they're pushed to build a roster right now around Domantas Sabonis, or to just call it quits and say, hey, we're going to have to trade Domas, and that means we should probably trade a couple other guys and start over. I think that their first attack is going to be to go out and try to build the roster around Domas.
Who's the ideal player or ideal type of player to build around Domantas Sabonis? Like what puts Domas in the best position to be great?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been like the long athletic shooter. Like you need more. If you could clone Keegan Murray and make two of them, you would actually that's the type of player that you need. You need more of, the Cam Johnson type player. What you need is guys that are athletic, that can defend, that can shoot the three. And I don't think that it's that difficult to find those players. I don't understand why the Monty and West tandem couldn't find those players, because every other team finds them. Like, there are a bunch of 6'6" to 6'9" athletic, long defensive minded 3-point shooting wings right now in the NBA. There just are. Look at every team that the Kings face. You're like, oh, that guy's going to be a problem, because they don't have those style of players. And so I think that's sort of like the first line of attack, is just to surround him with players that play the game the right way, that are defensive minded. Jake LaRavia can be part of that, but again, he should be the third or fourth forward for you in a rotation. You find a point guard that's long and athletic and that can shoot the three. Again, he doesn't have to be like the world's best setup man. He just has to be competent and know how to play the position. And so I think that they can build around him pretty quickly.
So I'm looking at Bobby Marks's end of the season, just kind of what the 49ers, what the Kings have in front of them. Yeah. And help me with this, James. I feel like much like the NFL salary cap, I ask you this every year how this works out. So they talk about the trade exceptions. He says a 16.8, a 6.3, a 5.9, 4.7. They have 4 trade exceptions?
Yeah, they have 4 trade exceptions, but they can't be combined.
You can use them in separate deals.
You can use them in the same trade for separate players and even on separate teams. So you can send again, let's say the 16 million, you can send that for a player that makes below that number. It has to be below that number. Then you could throw in, say, the Sasha Vezenkov deal at 6.5 or whatever. But that can be used to acquire a different player, and you can mix and match. But what it can't be used to do is say, I have a $16.5 million and I have a $6.5 million, so I can go acquire $23 million in player. Like, you can't acquire one player. You have to acquire multiple through different trade options and stuff. But yeah,
real quick, can you use DeMar and the trade exception? Or just the trade exception has to be by itself. No players with it.
You can use DeMar and a trade exception, but not for a player that makes more than DeMar's salary. Okay, so you can go up or down 20. I think it's 25% from DeMar's salary, right? So let's just say he makes 25 million. So roughly, I don't know, you can go up to, let's just say 30 million is a good round figure, right? It might even be like 32 million with DeMar. So you could acquire a player that makes 32 million or less. But then if there's a package deal where you have another player that's thrown in, you can sort of trade exception to acquire that player to go over that figure. So it gets pretty complicated, but also, like, remember, the Kings also have their mid-level exception, which means that they can use that as a trade option as well. And they can do that all the way up until the trade deadline. So they can go and acquire a $14 million player or $13 million, whatever the trade exception is this year. So the other thing is my brain just went sideways. All these numbers and people throwing numbers in the chat.
I'm gonna make it way worse, James.
Yep, I'm here.
Can you explain Keon's contract situation this offseason?
Yeah. Okay. So the Kings have 2 choices with Keon. Keon. There we go. The first option is to just,
James's head is still in Easter break. He's still in Truckee right now. It's all right, James. We got you.
You can just pick up a 3rd-year option, the option year on Keon Ellis's contract, and he's your player. It's for nothing. It's a league minimum deal, like $2.2 million. So if we get to the end of the next season, though, Keon Ellis would be an unrestricted free agent. You can try to re-sign him. You can use like whatever. You have Larry Bird rights to him. You can go above the salary cap to sign him, right? But he's an unrestricted free agent, which means anyone in the league can sign him as well. And he can go wherever he wants without needing a passport, basically. So the other way that you can do this summer is that you can decline his option year for next year. And what that does is it makes him a restricted free agent this summer, which means you can sign him to a lucrative contract, or he can go out and he can sign an offer sheet somewhere, and then you can match or not match. So it gives you more options for Keon. And I think at this point, you would also like to pay Keon more money than the league minimum. He's worth more than that. Now, how much more he's worth than that, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get a 3-year 24 or a 3-year 36. Whatever. Keon might get plenty of money in the on free agent market, but there isn't a ton of money to be had out there. And Keon Ellis, while is a fun young player and I think a very, very good up and coming player, there's also like how high up a list of priority is he going to be for another team out there, and you just don't know. But for me, like I would be concerned with the Keon Ellis situation, just like I'd be concerned with the Keegan Murray situation. Like, because when you have a front office that finds a diamond in the rough as an undrafted free agent in Keon Ellis, and who spends a number 4 pick on a guy like Keegan Murray, they have a certain attachment to those players. When you have those guys depart, whether they're fired or they just decided to go to Utah for some reason, whatever the reason, you're handing your franchise over to a different person who has a different view on each of those players and is going to have a different value on those players. So there's going to be some input. If Doug Christie's still the head coach, he would have some input. Guys like Alvin Gentry, if they're still around, he'll have input. Guys like Vivek and maybe Angeli will have input on whether they would like to see those players retained or not. But there's always going to be a different feel with a player when you drafted him or you found him than when somebody else did, and their residuals from somebody else's roster that you may or may not want to push forward with.
My bad. Completely understandable. You talk about Keon and declining the option and him becoming a restricted free agent potentially. Wouldn't that, you mentioned the options it gives you, but also wouldn't that allow you to let the league set his market? And so maybe in certain aspects it prevents you from overpaying for a guy that maybe you feel good about. But that also goes back to your other point of the guys that feel good about him aren't here. This is a completely different regime, so they wouldn't have the emotional attachment that they may have had previously to overpay for him. But if you decline that option and becomes a restricted free agent, the league will set the market for who they think he is.
No, I totally agree. It's a dangerous game that the Kings are playing with this. Again, if they just go into this offseason and say, hey, we're going to pick up your option year, number one, I actually think that would kind of put a bad taste in Keon's mouth, because they're saying, hey, we're going to get you cheap one more year. And then the Kings can sit there and try to work out a contract extension all season long, but it's going to be based off of $2 million this year, as opposed to, so say he opts out, or you opt out of that deal and then you give him a 3-year 24. Well, in year one, he just made an extra $6 million. So this is where you have to be very careful. Now, what you don't want to do is have him opt out of his deal and then have someone come through with like a 3-year, $51 million deal at $17 million a year. And now you're sitting there like, uh-oh, what do we do? Now you've got to make a decision, because Keon Ellis is fun and he's awesome when he makes $2 or $3 million a year. Once he starts making, this is the same thing that I think Malik Monk is dealing with right now.
They turn on you quick, Keon.
Once you start making $20 million a year, last year was 17. This next year it'll be like 18 and a half or 19 for Malik. Like Malik, I don't think he's a starter, but maybe he's a starter. I don't think he's a true point guard. Maybe he can start at the 2, but you just traded for Zach LaVine. So all of a sudden, that contract doesn't look nearly as good as it did the day you signed it. when he was just this flamethrower off the bench and everyone was happy with it. But that again was when you had De'Aaron Fox as your starting point guard. And, when you didn't have $40 million wrapped up in your shooting guard position, or 46 next season, in Zach LaVine. So again, things change so quickly in the league. But again, Keon Ellis is a great young player. I think, teams would be crazy to let him go. The Kings would be crazy to let him go. So you got to figure out ways to manage that. But again, that's because I've watched Keon his whole career, and Scott Perry hasn't watched Keon his whole career.
Sorry, I was going to say, in that scenario you laid out, I mean, I love Keon too. $18 million a year for Keon Ellis. If that's the going rate, you kind of feels like you
can afford that chain he wears.
Right.
Well, you just don't know.
Be like,
right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, but then what do you do?
Well, you got Devin Carter. And I mean that seriously. Like, Devin Carter does a lot of the things that Keon does, and you kind of hope his development gets to the point, because I think Keon's a better player today. But I could see Devin Carter jumping into that role of Keon, and you hope that you have a development jump from Devin Carter from year 1 to year 2, and he could kind of play that role of Keon if Keon is gone.
Yeah, look, I don't know what Keon's going to get. I got to be honest. I just, as a player, I like Keon Ellis a lot more than I like Devin Carter. Again, Devin's a really good rebounder, and he might be a little bit better off the ball. I'm on the ball, taking the ball to the basket. But I just think Keon knows his role, and Devin's not going to know his role for a couple of years if he ever learns what his role is. There's a lot of value to having a 25-year-old guy who, is the same player today as he was in college, and just gets better at doing what he did in college. And I think Keon continues to improve. It's just he kind of gets gobbled up in the whole mess of this season. There are a lot of times late in the season where Keon started, taking people off the dribble and getting creative, trying to get to the middle of the key and using his floater. And I was like, hey, if this is who he can be, he can average 12, he can average 14 points a game. Why not? Especially with the way he shoots it. So I don't know.
Do you feel like who you said you've ever seen every game of Keon's career? Do you feel like who he is as a player?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think again, people bring up names in the chat, but I think he's got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope potential, Herb Jones potential. He's not the high flyer that, some of these guys are, but look, this is a lockdown 3-and-D defender who shoots 42% from 3, and it's consistent. And it's been for a couple of years now. We've seen the same exact thing. What I like about Keon is he's not a hungry mouth to feed. This team always does this thing where they go out and they get more mouths to feed on the offensive end. And Keon just does his job. He's a floor spacer. If you gave him an extra 3-3-pointers a game, he's going to average an extra 1 or 2 points a game, or more than that. He's going to average, well, I can do math. He's going to average 4.5 more points per game. And that's just off a couple of extra threes, because that's where he shoots it. So, yeah, I mean, Keon is he's not Herb Jones because he's the shooting guard version of. But look at great teams over the course of the last, couple of decades that have players like this that are just so incredibly impactful. So, we brought up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which, was a very, very good player for Denver. But it's not just that. I mean, look at how long Danny Green made a career in the NBA. And, guys that just know their job, to play defense, to take the toughest cover, and then to hit big shots when they're sent out to them. And for me, I would keep Keon, not at all costs. I mean, because there is something called salary cap, but certainly, for a good deal of money.
Cameramen were crazy.
Stop putting cameras in front of Nico. Stop putting microphones in front of Nico. And Nico, for God's sake, stop speaking into them. Just stop talking.
Nico, let me find just Nico, because I guess they actually have the official exit interview today. I don't know why we did this the other day.
Drew Down says 80 air balls of 3. and gets hurt.
Nico's quote today. The quote, I knew Luka was important to the Mavs fan base. Be careful here because it's a ... I didn't quite know to what level. End quote.
Gee, thanks.
All right, Nico.
It's great, man.
He can't be
struggling.
back next season.
I asked Jesse the question. I'll ask you the question.
Go ahead.
Do you think it was Nico's decision and he convinced ownership? For a lot of time, we've kind of stalled him out and been like ownership is, but what do you think?
Jesse sent me the Tim McMahon article this morning, and it's like these Dallas writers are going to eat off this story forever. And the more you read, now I'm also I don't believe everything I read, because we talk about this all the time, framing narratives. There's a reason someone's talking to Tim, just like there's a reason someone's talking to Sam, like they're trying to get their part of the story. Now, Tim and Sam, both veteran, writers, they know they've got to, circle back with multiple people to try to get it corroborated. But there's a lot that's pointing to Nico was really insecure about who and what Luka Doncic was. That evidence is starting to mount. And for as much as what's the guy Kings fans hate?
Brandon Williams?
No, the writer Bucher.
Oh, I got you.
Rick Bucher.
Yeah,
he has been on the he was on when I'm at the shop, the
FS1.
Yeah, and he was well, Nico's just fine. He's doing what management asked him to do. And I think back to a different article where I think it was in The Athletic, and it was more of a profile on the Mavs owner. I think it's Patrick Dumont or something like that. And they asked him, what did he, how did the Luka Doncic trade, how did that all formulate? And he said when Nico brought it to him, he laughed.
I remember that.
He thought he was kidding. And then he sat down with Nico and allowed Nico to explain why he was doing it. So to me, that flies in the face of the narrative that guys like Rick Bucher and other have been pushing, that Nico was just putting out his marching orders.
Right.
Like if Nico's executing the marching orders from the owner, you can't fire him. If Nico brought this to you, oh, pal. Yeah, it's
Nico
over for you. Yeah, you got to go.
Let basketball people do basketball things.
Man, goddamn shame when that happens.
Just hire the right basketball people, maybe.
That's the better term. Hire
By the
right
way,
person.
The quote in its entirety, the dots were unnecessary. I have it directly in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's no 95-7 the game, and with that quote, that is exactly
crazy.
What he said.
Where have you been for the past 7 seasons?
Shadowing Kobe. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what he's been doing.
Where have you been that you didn't know? That's Nico. Does he? Okay, let's assume the owner didn't. It wasn't his idea. Nico convinced him.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it through the summer.
Shouldn't.
Nico makes it through the summer. Like, hey, you convinced me. I believed it in the moment, but now I'm here and I see how people are reacting. I see what might be going on with my bottom line. I see how wrong this was. Yeah, I thought I was going to give you an opportunity to work through this. Not anymore.
Can't work through it when Kyrie's on a bum ACL right now, too. I know that was probably, I'm sure that got to be part of the vision.
Does Nico get credit for the PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford stuff?
He does.
I understand the follow-up is egregious. Like, yeah. I get that. You get
credit for that, but you also get credit for ruining the next 5 years in the Mavericks.
5?
At least, I think.
You put a 1 before that 5 if you wanted to.
All right, I was being generous. I thought I was being generous. He ruined their future.
This trumps.
So
those
okay,
moves.
Okay. What's the benefit of firing him right now?
You don't let him mess it up anymore.
Yeah.
Can he?
Yes.
He can.
Maybe an AD trade just goes horribly wrong.
If he thinks
Oh,
like this
man.
is a finals team, and if he thinks that
Man.
Luka Doncic was the right the person to trade, then yeah, get him out now before he just messes it up even more. Like if he truly thought, yeah, I got
don't-
Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving here, I have a finals team now, then I'll be nice. Yeah, just get him out of here.
I don't know that I'd fire him at this point. At some point, and I'm glad you explained it the way that you did, because if you're the owner, you'd have to acknowledge. Look, I know what I seeing it in execution is just awful. It's awful for the Mavericks brand. It's awful for everything we're doing. You sold me on it. You're a hell of a pitchman. I can't move forward this way.
Yeah.
That's really the only way you could do it if you're the owner.
Right.
If you're firing him. If you're not, and maybe this was a conversation that was had then. I don't see this going well. I see the reaction being very bad, and it doesn't seem like anyone foresaw this reaction, which is amazing. I'm gonna give you a chance. You better be on point with everything you do. I'm gonna give you a chance to execute this, but every move you make this summer better be on point. He could already be on notice.
Yeah.
Who knows? It does not sound like that's the case at all. But it's always funny when a story comes there. There's multiple truths to it.
Right.
He's just acting out his marching orders versus he was insecure when it came to Luka Doncic and he took it to the owners.
Yeah.
That's why don't believe everything you read. Read it all. Inform your opinion by it.
I believe ownership was probably with him once he explained it, but it was his idea, I think. Like ownership had his back after that.
I wonder if people, hear this conversation about Dallas and Nico and recognize, man, they said it was the owner. Well, they said it was Nico. Just take Nico's name out.
Same thing.
It's the same exact thing. And I feel like it constantly flies over the head of Kings fans here.
Right.
Because they're so programmed to believe one thing, and that it's I'm not absolving Vivek of any of his flaws and his shortcomings in all of this. But if you wrote Vivek went to outer space with Katy Perry and Gayle King, no one would even question it.
No.
And he made his decision on who to hire for the general manager, why in space with Katy Perry. No one would be like, that doesn't sound funny. They'd all say, well, Sam wrote it and he's always right.
Right. Or it's like, once again, we always talk about this. It's not Sam. It's who's telling Sam.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So yeah, it's got to be right. And like you said, sometimes, that's all on Vivek, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a lot of people manipulating half truths and halves of the story in the conversations and the back and forths and talking about the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're 100% correct. You changed Nico's name to Monty, and what's the owner's name? McDermott or
no? I don't think it's McDermott. I think it's Patrick. I think it's Dumont.
Dumont. The different.
It's not
McDermott's not Spanish either.
Patrick
Dumont is what I was thinking of. That's French. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's the right name, Patrick Dumont.
Yeah.
Oh God, he looks like Mark Davis.
No, he don't look like he has any idea. It looks like you can easily convince him to do whatever you want.
This is going to sound terrible, and I ask the good Lord and everybody involved to forgive me. But if you cast Dumb and Dumber with Patrick Dumont and Mark Davis, it'd work.
Well, I was gonna say he could probably play his own character in something like Clip too.
It would.
Yeah, he looks like
that's what he looks like.
He looks like you could play like just crazy owner, but just be yourself, pal.
Patrick Dumont looks like the clipped version of the Dallas Mavericks owner, except it's the actual Dallas Mavericks owner. Man,
Patrick Dumont played by himself.
So what's you got it? What do we call this? Nicode? The Dallas Mavericks version of clipped?
I think Nicode works.
Nico.
You start using Nico as a way to describe something.
Oh man, don't Nico this situation.
Oh man.
Damn,
Hey,
he's turned into what
It's
is
almost
that,
like when you shrewded
that
it
a-
or something.
You shrewded it. That's yes.
Yeah.
what's
When
that?
you mess something up in a
Yes.
grand fashion.
People
that
say,
it's
yeah, oh, I
Yeah.
shrewded it.
Yeah. You know where?
Yeah, that was episode 24, season 3.
No.
Oh, my bad, 22.
Okay.
That's right. 24.
Good.
24
It's not the episode, it's the season you got wrong, pal.
24 is when they had the chili in the microwave. That was the other one. My bad.
Who did?
Who had the chili?
Bill Packer. Todd Packer. Todd.
One
He
day that
doesn't-
answer's going to be right.
So he doesn't even know Todd Packer is like a once a season character.
Yeah.
He's literally not even like maybe once or twice a season. You're doing great. man.
I'm gonna get there.
I'm
I'ma
sure
get
you
there.
are. No, you didn't.
No, tonight.
Don't-
Tonight.
Tell me what you were thinking regarding Kawhi Leonard before the break.
We talk about Kawhi Leonard, and I was, wondering if he's able to hold up. We see a performance last night where I know literally statistically it wasn't perfect, but that was as close to perfect as you could get.
Yeah.
Shooting that many times in that situation. What was he, 15 and 19?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, come on, man.
Yep.
That was unbelievable to watch. And I remember him missing 2 shots in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, leading up to that, I think he had only missed 2 shots for the majority of that game. That was crazy.
I think one of them had like 2 guys in his face too in that
Mhm.
fourth quarter.
Yeah. And because I remember the 2 misses, I wasn't aware of the stat, the numbers. So I was like, oh, he just missed 2 shots. And then I saw he was 15 and 19. I was like, were those 2 of the only 4 shots he missed tonight? It was crazy. But we talk about his ability, what he can do, winning a championship, and what he can be if he's healthy. Is he the greatest what if in NBA history?
No.
Are we sure?
No, he won a title.
But how much more could he
he
achieve
be-
though?
He could be the way it feels like if he didn't get hurt, we may be talking about a top 10 player.
He
of all
played
time.
that game yesterday, and I was in the rundown like, hey, where does he fit amongst the league's best right now? Like, he just played one game. It's like, yeah, he's back. Obviously, who knows how his injuries, like his body holds up and all that. But like, if he just was healthy his whole career,
If he could have the health
It's
of
just
LeBron
weird
James.
to have this conversation about a player who's won he's won multiple championships.
no,
Sure.
he's got
He's
accolades on
going
accolades.
to the Hall of
2
Fame.
finals MVPs.
He has on many different occasions throughout his career been considered a top 3, 4, 5 player in the entire league.
He's a 6-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champ, All-Rookie, 2-time Finals MVP, All-Star Game MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, top 75, 7-time All-Defense, 6-time All-NBA.
It
Jesus.
feels like the resume's crazy. The resume is crazy. It feels like if he had the health of LeBron James, you could double all that.
Cole asked right here, if he's healthy, could he have been a top whatever player of all time? Is he top 20, top 15 type?
It certainly feels like it. It
Yeah.
certainly feels like it.
I mean,
He's got the defense.
Because when we talk about, I know Derrick Rose is on there, Penny's on there, Joel's on there, and Joel's probably a little higher level than those 2 about what he could have achieved. But those 2, we think they would have been, how do I put this? It's impossible. I'm just asking a question though.
Anything is possible.
Is it a sure bet in your guys' opinion of Kawhi being a 4-time NBA champion, 14-time All-NBA, whatever, as opposed to saying, hey, Derrick Rose or Penny, if they stayed healthy, they would have won 2, 3 titles? I feel like I'm more sure that Kawhi would have achieved all that than those other 2.
I didn't watch Penny, so like I can only go with Derrick Rose versus Kawhi. I think like Derrick Rose is always like, yeah, he would have been one of the best, but there was always LeBron there too, so you don't know how that would have ended up. I think it's easier for Kawhi, I think, to imagine 2 more titles. Like he got traded to the Raptors for 1 year and got him a ring there.
COVID happened, else they might have won a ring there. They were the
it's not crazy.
Were they
It's
the
not
1
crazy.
seed in 2020? I know the Lakers
Were
were
they?
starting to track them down, but because that one we always talk about, that last game was one of the last games was that Sunday Lakers Clippers game, and I feel like the Clippers were the 1 seed
Well, let's look.
at the
Let's
time,
look.
or maybe
So
even
the
2 seed.
2019-2020 season, the Lakers finished 3 games ahead of the Lakers, or the Clippers, 3.5 ahead of the Clippers.
Does that include the bubble situation though?
I don't think it does. I don't think
I don't
those
think.
games
Okay.
count. I
Gotcha.
literally think those games were nothing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
It's not. I'm with it. I mean, it's certainly possible.
He is a machine when he's on. He is a machine, and we talk about the 2019 finals, 2020 season, what he was doing. I think sometimes that's why I put it out there last night when I tweeted it. We kind of forget what he did in 2021 before he got hurt. Remember that Mavs series where for the first 6 games, the road team won every game, and he had that game 6 in Dallas with the season on the line. And I'll look it up for sure. I think he had like 45. He had like 45 and it was akin to what we saw last night, his performance. That guy was crazy. And then they get past the Mavericks and he gets hurt in game 4 of the Utah series, tears his ACL.
And the original injury occurred against the Warriors. That was Zubac with the Spurs when he was with the Spurs. Yep. That was the one that started everything.
Yeah. That was a sprained ankle.
Damn, Zaza Pachulia.
Changed the NBA. It's a flagrant foul now.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't reviewing that before.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I'm probably going to lie about Kawhi Leonard like he's Michael Jordan 20 years from now.
He's almost got a little bit of that. And I don't think they played against each other, so it's not an exact comparison. But he's almost got that. Well, actually, now that I look back in his career, he did. He's got that Isaiah Thomas to him, where he's the one that can say, I beat both of these boys. The one you're talking about Steph and LeBron, it's their era. I beat them both.
Kawhi.
I beat LeBron when he was in San Antonio. Damn near swept him out of the NBA Finals. And I beat Curry at the height of what he was doing. He's got that Isaiah Thomas age. So I beat them both.
Minus like a couple of all defensive teams, like Kawhi got most of his accolades too, like his first 6 seasons.
Yeah, because he
defensive player. Defensive player of the year. He won 2014, 2015, and the 2015, 2016 season.
You read the numbers, and he hasn't played much in like 5 years.
Yeah, 2016, 2017, he played 74 games. Then the next year he played 9, and it's all just been kind of fluctuating between like 60 something to 50 since then.
Yeah, I was just something I was thinking about. I was like, man, this guy is.
You take him over Grant Hill? Wilson throws him in the chat right here.
Take him over Grant Hill
as
in
far as what
ifs.
What they could have achieved, and I guess who's the biggest what if?
Well, Grant's first 6 years in the league.
Yeah, he was a problem. He was an absolute problem.
So, this is who accomplished more? Like Kawhi did, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But was Grant the bigger player? Like 6 years into his career, was Grant Hill a bigger player than Kawhi Leonard was?
Probably. He was in a different situation. But Kawhi, I think within 6 years, had the finals MVP, had a championship, had all defensive accolades.
Kawhi, yeah, he was defensive player of the year twice his first 6 seasons.
Wow, goodness great.
Back-to-back seasons. I'm looking at Grant Hill. Like, he was rookie of the year. He was all NBA like a bunch, like his first 6 seasons every year. And then he was MVP top 10 on the race or whatever like that. But yeah, he doesn't have like the defensive player of the year, the defensive teams that Kawhi has.
Quick side note to that game I was talking about, game 6, the Clippers down 3-2, going to Dallas and Luka and all this other stuff. Kawhi, 45 points on 18 of 25 from the field.
Man, what game was this?
Game 6 in 2020.
Jesus. I mean, has there ever? I mean, he also has legendary playoff performances. Like he does not have performances where he's man. If only they had Kawhi. Like right. They like
where was he at?
Yeah, like that. And to me, that the shot, it's not for a tie. That's got to be one of the most legendary shots. That's Tiger's slow drop at the Masters, I think it was, where the ball just like stops and then rolls into the cup. Like that's that was Kawhi's shot against Philly.
Yep. Yeah, it's just I mean it's an unanswerable question, but I was just thinking about it. Just
I don't know. It feels like we answered it. Feels like we're all in agreement here.
Is he the most though? I honestly kind of crazy.
I'll take Kawhi, honestly.
Kawhi over Joel.
Yeah, because Joel always got gassed out in the playoffs too. Wasn't necessarily always due to injury.
Oh, we answered it.
Wow, that's really. I think we did. It's just crazy to think a player as accomplished as Kawhi Leonard is also a man. It could have been so much more. Like he's going. I mean, Grant Hill did too. Like the man's the first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the best we've ever seen. But the idea that he puts on a show like he did last night, and NBA fans, except for Nuggets fans, like basketball fans, Kings fans who aren't busy right now, they're waiting for a 10 a.m. press conference tomorrow. They're immediately like, yo, they're texting they're in the group chat like, you see this dude? NBA fans are just pull up your favorite NBA podcast. They're talking about Kawhi Leonard today. And I don't think there are a lot of players in the league that could do that. If
Kawhi Leonard's on, everyone's fearing him. It doesn't matter.
Right. I was about to say,
who.
If Paul George did that, same scenario. If Paul George did it, he would be like, "Yeah, it's a good game from Paul George." No one would be scared of it though, even though Paul has he's got a resume himself. Great player. Often those two are in the same conversation about two-way players in the league. But when Kawhi does it, it's
it's gonna be a long night.
Kawhi. Paul George does it. Oh, that's a good game for the 76ers. Oh, it's good for Paul George. Kawhi does it. Man, the Clippers go win the title.
That's what I was about to say. Like,
we still got the clip that surfaces every year. It feels like of LeBron at the free throw line, Kawhi subbing in.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to get the ball.
Yeah.
Hey, give me the ball. Give me the. Damn.
Telling the ref, hurry, he's coming.
Kawhi. That's a great point that you made, because Kawhi is probably the one guy. I don't want to say that. There's other great guys in it, but maybe he is the one guy that you see what he did last night, and everybody's like, if he's healthy, it might be over.
Yeah, right.
That's the only
How many
question.
players in the entire league are like that? Yeah, I don't know how many there are.
I can't think of anybody because of the
Did
circumstances.
Scott Perry? You were we outlined a moment ago that you were critical of the process of firing Monty McNair and essentially waking up and hiring Scott Perry. Did anything Scott said yesterday change your opinion on that? Sway your opinion? Lighten your opinion? Did anything that Scott Perry said yesterday change the way you felt going into that press conference?
Not really, because the problem was never, to me, Scott Perry, or the issue for me was never the Scott Perry hire. It was just the process by which they went about hiring him so quickly without doing a search. I thought Scott's press conference was really, really, really good. If it's possible, like, to win a press conference, I thought he won the press conference. I thought he said all the right things. I thought his energy was fantastic. I thought he was optimistic. He drove the right points home. I think the fact that he leaned heavily on his experience and his connections and his contacts around the league, I think it's like the main star on his resume, or the main feather in his cap. So that was I guess encouraging to hear. But I mean, words are words, and I'm sure we'll talk about it over the course of this show. Like, there are times that Scott Perry was speaking and it sounded exactly like Mike Brown when Mike Brown was here. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, let's do it again. Maybe it'll be different this time because you're a general manager and not a head coach. So I was happy with the press conference. I was encouraged by the things that Scott Perry was saying, but ultimately now it's time to see results. but you're not going to see anything the first day or during a press conference. That's the time for speaking, the time for talking. So there's certainly, I didn't leave the press conference at all feeling any worse, and I didn't necessarily leave the press conference feeling bad either. It just felt okay. Here we go. It's kind of a fresh start. Let's do it again.
Speaking to the process of it all, and I understand wanting a certain way that you go about making a move that's this important. But what if I told you or presented to you, like Vivek, he knew 7 years ago Scott Perry was the guy, and he lost him. And now Scott Perry was available after this didn't work. And this is the guy. This was the guy that was supposed to be here back 7 years ago and was going to turn everything around. And we lost him due to his dream job. Now we have an opportunity to do it. I just believe this is the guy. Like, I don't really need to interview or search or do all this other stuff. This is the guy. And that's the reason why he went it that way. Would that make you feel a little different, or are you still like, even if you feel that way, still do a search?
Yeah, no, because I have no reason to believe that Vivek Ranadive's judgment is good. like if this is the guy I've wanted all along, cool. Like the guys that you've wanted, whether it's players, coaches, pretty much everything, really haven't worked out. So, again, Perry is not the issue to me. It's never been Perry. It's just the process. But like, why didn't you do a search? Why didn't you? If you came to the same conclusion, fantastic. But I mean, that it's just me more being just a stickler to the process and wanting the Kings to do everything by the book and by the way that I think everybody else would do it, and not their own way of doing it. If the result was the same, the result was the same. And I will give them credit for not wasting any time. I mean, they went out and did it, and then Scott Perry sounds like not going to waste any time with his head coach search. Hopefully get it done a week or maybe even less, maybe a slightly bit longer, which I called for, making decisions and making moves quickly this summer so it doesn't linger for a long time. So at least they're accomplishing that. But I mean, the whole root of the problem is in a distrust or lack of faith in the decision making of the organization. So there's always going to be a level of skepticism with whatever decision they make, whether they came to the Scott Perry conclusion by normal circumstances or not. I think I would have felt the same way about Scott, but always felt like, okay, like I think there's just a natural level for me and for a lot of people of like disbelief in that it's going to work, because we've seen the last 12, 13 years. So
real quick though, to that point, the search doesn't matter. Like whether they have a search or not doesn't matter. He could have had a perfect search. You don't believe in him.
No, the search does matter, because again, to me, doing things the way that I think everybody else would do it, and taking the time necessary to at least have conversations with other people, I think that would, like, the process is important to me. If the Kings execute the process correctly, or in a way that I think everybody else would, and then hire and look, and they're a good example. They're in a great spot.
I'm just saying, but pointing out they did.
But also, I'm saying, like you said, you don't trust who Vivek thinks is right because he doesn't get anything right. So it doesn't matter if he did a month-long search. If he thought that was the guy that was right, you'd be like, I don't believe you, because you're always wrong. That's kind of my point.
I think there's always going to be a level of skepticism with any decision Vivek Ranadive makes because of his track record. I think that's completely normal, completely healthy, and completely understandable. I don't think he's earned a clean slate. He hasn't. But he gets credit too for making the right decision. Like, I credit him for the Scott Perry decision. I think the thing that Vivek and ownership did right on this decision is that they went out and got a vet. Like, the last three hires were first-time GMs.
Mm-hmm.
He went out and got a vet. Like, I give him credit for that, and that's where I said Scott driving that point home really benefited the image for everybody. Like, it's almost like calling it a politician has like a negative connotation, but Scott Perry separated himself from the competition and therefore separated Vivek's hire from the competition or from the past, because it's clearly different in this one marquee area. And it's a very, very big area. It's like my respect, my reputation around the league, my connections everywhere. I've been in this league a very, very long time. And that is promising because that's different. That's new. Vivek gets credit for that. I'm not saying everything that Vivek touches dies and is bad. That's not even remotely true. But every decision that this ownership group makes is going to be met with a certain level of skepticism until they actually produce results beyond just 1 year. And even then, it's not fair, but it's the reality. If they start getting results, Scott Perry is going to be the first guy that's looked at. And then there's also now going to be another step to this, which is, okay, let's say Scott Perry in a year or two gets them back to the playoffs and they lose in the first or second round. Okay. Now it's like, okay, now show me that it's not going to completely fall apart a year or two later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what you've created for yourself. I think it's only natural. I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's overly negative. I think it's the reality of the situation of what you've created for yourself here in Sacramento. And like they say, the cliche, winning cures everything. Well, hopefully Scott Perry can be the cure.
What, you weren't the first person who noticed similarities between things that Scott Perry said and things that Mike Brown once said. Was there something in particular that made you feel like, oh, heard this before and it wasn't that long ago?
Yeah, it wasn't like direct words, but Mike was very focused on the soul of the organization and everybody being on the same page and everybody like there being a unity on all levels of the organization. And just Perry's words, I thought, echoed that same vision, talking about everybody, buying a mirror for everybody. He was mainly talking about himself and the players, but he's talking about all levels of the organization. Everybody looks in the mirror and makes sure they're doing everything they can to execute this joint vision that everybody has for the organization. I just thought it was very similar. The things that I was most skeptical about in the press conference were like when Perry was answering the question from Sean Cunningham about his comments on Zach LaVine. He said, I'm a straight shooter. I call it like it is. Like, and people, I think people appreciate that about me because they know it comes from a good place. Okay. So you're a straight shooter. He brought up he used the word accountability a number of times in that press conference. The last guy to do that got fired for his process of trying to hold people accountable. Now that was a head coach, not a general manager. Maybe it's different this time, but I know for a fact there are people in this organization on all levels that don't necessarily like being held accountable or don't necessarily practice what they preach. They use accountability as a buzzword, but in the process of being held accountable by a straight shooter that might be saying things that they don't like, whether it's publicly or privately. And what Perry said was extremely public about Zach LaVine. People might not like that and throw fits about that. So the skepticism to me there is, I think accountability is absolutely needed in the organization. I'm hoping Perry can be the one to deliver it as the boss in terms of basketball operations. But these are words that we've heard floated around this organization 4, 5, 6 years. And it feels like every time there was an attempt at accountability, it wasn't always carried out. So those are the things that I was probably most skeptical about out of that press conference. Not anything to do with ownership or anything to do with Perry. More just all right, this is the vision you want to execute. We've had these conversations before. Maybe let's see if Perry can actually be the one to make the difference.
And I think with Perry having that type of mindset and trying to bring that into the organization, because much like you, I don't think there's anything wrong with Mike Brown or anybody else trying to hold these guys accountable. But there's a way that you present that accountability. There's a way that you go about things yourself when you're trying to hold others accountable that people look at and people react and react to. And I don't know everything that happened, but and I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, and I'm not taking a side, but I am looking at it's not one person that was upset with Mike Brown.
Right.
There were multiple people that I don't know what he did that was different. I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did, what he said, what was going on, and I'm not even saying they're right. But it wasn't just one person that had a problem with him. So I think his presentation, just me speculating, may have been an issue. Some of the things that were looked at as being, hey, I'm being accountable. It might have been looked at as I know more than you, or I'm better than you because of my history. And I think Scott Perry will be and should be mindful of when he does look to hold people accountable, the way that he holds them accountable, the way that he presents his message, because that may play a role into how that message gets across to these people.
I agree. I also don't think you need to walk on eggshells around players that don't get the job done or who are on a mediocre or average team.
Well, I don't think it's walking on eggshells. It's just how you work with people, like how you do it. Like you don't have to walk on eggshells to earn somebody's trust or to earn a relationship where you can be critical of somebody or something like that by the way that you go about things yourself and the way that you handle things. So it's not necessarily eggshells. It's just being aware of how you present what you're trying to get across.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think what Perry said about Zach LaVine was wrong in any kind of way or bad?
No, I don't think so either. I think that's been overblown from the start. I thought it was perfectly fair, and people were like, well, damn, he's talking crazy about Zach LaVine. I didn't think he was talking crazy about Zach LaVine. He was saying real stuff, and I think that's something because of what he said. When you mentioned it perfectly the other day, Damian, if you were Scott Perry and you talked to Zach LaVine, that'd be an easy conversation to have because it wasn't malicious. It wasn't a personal attack. It was just looking at what his career has been and recognizing his strengths and how do we move from you being just this guy to be a winning ball player. And I thought that's been overblown from the start, but that's maybe the way I looked at it.
Well, follow-up question. Do you think Perry would ever say the same thing now that Zach LaVine's on his team?
Would he say the same thing now?
Whether it's publicly or privately, would he say the same thing about Zach LaVine now that Zach LaVine, he runs a team with Zach LaVine on it?
I don't think he would say that publicly. That would be stupid. I think privately he would.
Yeah, I think he would too.
And are we confident that Zach LaVine would take that well?
I don't know. Zach LaVine, but I don't know.
I think if you sit and I think if you sit down and have a conversation with Zach LaVine, like I don't think it's a combative conversation between Scott Perry and Zach LaVine. I think you can explain those comments rather easily. Whether Scott Perry still feels that way or feels that's where he's best suited, it's probably more of we've got a roster to put together that we feel like you can be a marquee part of. We've got a roster we got to put together. We feel like you can be even the leading scorer of. Leading scorer doesn't always mean the best player, but we're going to have like a lot of focus on you here moving forward. And if Scott doesn't feel that way, I think he'll tell them. We're going to put this together a roster you're going to be featured in. And that's it.
And another thing, why do we assume or think so little of Zach LaVine that he would automatically take offense to that or look at that as a negative? Like that's something that
I think that's probably basketball players are. I don't think it's a Zach LaVine thing. I think basketball players as a whole, we believe, are fragile.
He got called, like he got questioned whether or not he's a winning player on national television. Like I completely understand exactly what Perry was saying in the clip. I don't think Perry was overly hostile or aggressive by any means, but on national television, he questioned whether or not you can win basketball games with Zach LaVine or if Zach LaVine actually contributes to winning. Like that is a pretty significant criticism for a guy that's making almost $50 million a year. And now that guy is on your roster. So I'm not saying he had to necessarily put out fires, but let's not pretend like he didn't say something pretty significant about arguably the guy that he's most stuck with on this roster right now because of the contract situation. Like
that's fine. There's another guy he's stuck with too, and I could ask the same questions about.
And I don't
know that Domas amounts to winning.
I agree, but that's also one of the guys that is pretty well known that didn't like Mike Brown for Mike Brown's accountability. And he had a problem with some of the things Mike Brown was saying. So this is my point. Like, is he going to be able to hold his center accountable if his center's refusing to shoot the basketball in meaningful games? But like this is my point. Like, we can dance around everything if we want to. This buzzword of accountability around the league has been here for years, but there has been very inconsistent accountability for years. So I am hoping Scott Perry will be different because he's the general manager, because his approach is very different from Monty McNair's, who is a lot quieter and more in the shadows. It's a GM approaching it not a head coach approaching it. But it is more than fair and more than reasonable for anybody to question whether or not there actually will be accountability held in this organization when that buzzword's been around and the execution has not been there. And the last guy to actually, I think, really do it lost his job pretty quickly. Like, I'm not making this up. This is how it's been.
And that's why I asked you a question or presented a situation before. I'm going to be overly dramatic just for the sake of the argument. But if the guy is saying, Domas, your sorry ass needs to listen to me because you haven't won anything in this league, and I'm the guy that has 5 championships and all this other stuff, you need to do like the presentation matters.
Sure.
So accountability is one thing. If you are disrespecting people, or if you're dismissing people, or you're not getting them to understand what you're saying because your presentation is not good enough, it's not necessarily about the accountability. It could be about, this is how you deal with people, and they're not feeling that. And I'm not saying that was Mike. Once again, I preference it by saying I'm being dramatic for dramatic sake, but we don't know what his ability to preach accountability was. It could have been just a bad person-to-person interaction that people don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
That could have been the case. So, but it's not, I don't think it's fair, and this may not matter. I don't think it's fair to just say the last time somebody tried to hold people accountable, he got out of here. If he was like being a jackass to everybody, that probably holds more weight than them trying to hold people accountable.
Well,
I put weight in results. Like that, I just look at results. Like I think the whole crux of this conversation, Casey, we could be having these exact same back and forth about something completely separate, but based on the same premise of, I don't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. They don't deserve it. They don't. They do not earn the benefit of the doubt. I look at the results. I look at 1 year.
From who? Okay.
The entire organization.
I got you.
And when the reason why I defend Mike Brown so adamantly, I'm not saying Mike Brown was perfect. I've never said Mike Brown was perfect. Look at the freaking results. Mike Brown is the common denominator to the only success this organization has had. That's it. The most common denominator to the dysfunction is the guy that's still here in ownership. And that's fine. Like he's going to be here.
But let me ask you something. What happened the first 31 games of this season?
I think the issues that were not properly addressed with the roster continued to come out. I do not think Mike Brown did a perfect job by any means. I think Mike Brown was still facing the repercussions of how he handled certain players the season before. The mistake that I think Mike Brown made over anything, and a lot of people are immediately going to jump to Keon Ellis, and it's not Keon Ellis. Mike Brown tried to turn this team into something that they're not instead of emphasizing their strengths. I think that's something that Doug Christie does really, really well. But just because Doug Christie tries to emphasize a team's strengths doesn't mean that he can help get that team across the finish line. Mike Brown put too much of a focus, in my opinion, on, and I don't know why the hell we're still talking about Mike Brown, but here we are. Mike Brown is put the emphasis and the focus on trying to turn this team into a better defensive team, which in theory is good, but he sacrificed too much on the offensive end. But yes, the first 30 games of this season were not good. Like the Kings were 5 games under 500, or is it 6 games under 500 when he was fired? 5. Thank you. 5 games under 500. I'm not saying Mike Brown was doing a great job and got fired out of nowhere, like completely blindsided. It wasn't like a Taylor Jenkins situation or a Mike Malone situation. We established this on this show when both those guys
were fired out of nowhere either. But
either way, their teams weren't in winning positions, or their teams were in winning positions. Mike Brown wasn't. That aspect and that element at least made sense. My whole crux of the issue was Mike didn't have to be the first domino to fall. I think Mike would have done a better job if some of the moves that were made after Mike was fired.
That boy Bruce.
Hey, come on, man. We got legends in the house.
What's happening?
We got legends in the house, man. Come on,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Stop playing.
Hey, man, I came here a little early on purpose, you know what I'm saying? Because I just really got tired of waiting. Look,
No, that's it.
I'm going to go in here early. I'm going to make them put me on, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm an international player.
Brother, you have been doing this long enough to where you show up, we doing the show.
I appreciate that, too, because y'all laid it out. You know, KC, he kind of smooth, man.
Yeah.
Watch him, man.
Yeah.
I won't even bring my side girl around here. He would get her. That joker's so smooth. He walked that. Yo, what's happening? Everything.
Hey, man, I was showing respect to the legends.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
doing,
But
man.
it's
Come on.
almost like This is dude be at church, got all the women. You don't even know he got them. You know, he walk up, God is good. They start shouting.
Hey, I got one, man. That's all I got.
That's it.
I got
That's
one.
all you need.
That's it. That's all I need in life.
I can only handle one. That's it. I seen a brother in the airport, man, from Africa, Nigeria. Very unattractive. He was very unattractive. And he has 6 wives with him. I'm like, bro, how do you do it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 6 wives.
Yeah.
And he was unattractive now. He must have had some money. Oh, the brother was got a coal out your eyes. Do you hear me? That's how ugly he was.
Oh,
but
man.
Look, he said, I know who you are. You hosted BET. But he had 6 wives. I said, brother, you the man, because I cannot do it.
Yeah, that's
woo.
I love my wife. I love my wife to death.
Oh,
I couldn't imagine 5 more of her.
But I can understand.
hey, you get dump that.
No, but I'm saying
I don't need her to hear that.
I'm saying like I'm good.
Her.
Yeah, her.
He wanted. He said, "I love my wife
5
with all my heart to death." She had to hear that. He put that.
No,
to death.
5, and then she probably say the same about me. Like I couldn't deal with 5 of you. Like
well, everybody
just
say
5
that about
people.
you.
Everybody say that about
just 5 people that you gotta deal with, live with, and like that's a lot.
6 wives, you got 6 different personalities.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying. And one get mad, they all get mad. So you got 5 women in the house, man. And imagine you have kids by them, and they got girls.
Oh,
I had a buddy of mine. He was from Nigeria. His dad had 8 wives. He had 8, 9 kids by each wife.
Oh my God!
And then his dad ended up passing, so he had to move back to Nigeria to help the mothers with all the brothers and sisters. And he was a personal trainer, man. He had like 2% body fat. He used to cuss his people out, you know, when they can't do what he wanted to do. You are in shape. They're not. Quit cussing them out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can do this. Nobody never showed back up.
He couldn't keep a client.
But he was excellent what he did, but he just quick temper.
Yeah.
How different is the game now? You've been doing it for so long.
Man. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna be honest with you, D-Lo. I'm gonna be honest. If we did social media 35 years ago, it'd be crazy. Social media game is winning. People talk about the social media comedians and what they do. I don't care. They are winning. So if you can't beat them, join them. Yeah. So I join them. All the young dudes that got the following, I be taking pictures with them because I want you to follow me too. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it is. They work that phone, man.
Yeah.
They work it and it works for them. So keep doing it.
And that mindset that you have right there from somebody our generation.
Yeah.
So you remind that's the way to do it. Because it's like you can't buck the system. You can't fight like what's going on. It's already happened.
Right.
So if you want to survive, you gotta be able to adjust.
I've been doing this for 30 years and they've been doing it for 3 years and they got all okay. Get with the program and let's do it. And that's what it's all about. It's all about social media. Even now, management and agents, they like know how many followers you got. They ask you that before they even want to represent you because it saves a lot of work for them to do. So you like, I got 10 million. Oh, really? Listen, this is gonna be a great company we're here with. They're gonna sign you up because they don't have to do any work anymore.
Yeah.
So you know,
and these young dudes, they're funny, man. It's different. Like it's not necessarily stand up on the stage and tell a story. They got the skits. Some of them are funny. Some of them are corny. Some of them are corny, but some of them are like legit, like make me laugh.
Yeah,
like,
but some of them got what they have, what you see. That 10 minutes, that's all they got. Right? After that 10 minutes, right. You know, when you get on stage or when you see somebody on stage, I want you all to remember this, both of y'all. When somebody starts saying, man, we need to take care of these women and these kids, they got nothing else to say. They don't have another joke in mind. Man, we got to start taking care of these women, man, these kids.
They're
man.
done.
We got to be fathers. They tapped out. They got nothing else to say. So I'm telling you all the secret. When y'all hear somebody say that, just get your girl and say, hey, come on, baby, we going to go. He ain't got nothing else to say. Just walk out the club.
What's left? What else do you want to do? We talk about guys
everything.
who've done it all.
Oh man, I did everything. But I'm gonna let you all know, May 3rd of this year, 2025, I am doing my new Netflix special.
There we go.
It will be in Chicago at a theater called the Vic. We're doing 2 shows in one night. So if you all in town in Chicago, come see your boy. Because everybody's flying in just to see me do this Netflix special. And I hadn't did one in 15 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think I ain't gonna wait that long. I'm doing another like 2 years. So
okay.
But this one, May 3rd, Chicago, Illinois, the Vic, that's the name of the theater. It's going to be called Stay in Your Lane, Bruce.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, I look at you as the king of comedy.
Well, that's true. That's true. They
The
voted me
king
off.
of comic
I
view.
supposed to be a king, but they voted me off. No,
Nah,
we ain't
man,
gonna let him do it.
You the king of comic view, man, and it's such an iconic show.
Oh yeah,
and it birthed so many great
it
comedians.
did, man. And
Did you know at the time like how iconic that was gonna be?
no, I didn't. Only thing I know when I did it that year, when I saw the numbers, I'm like, are you kidding me? Because it just started elevating. It started doing real good. So I was actually trying to let them. We had a meeting. I said, just let me host Comic View every year, like they did 106 in Park. You remember AJ and Free? They were doing it every year. I said, let me just be the host, and then we can keep these numbers up. But they wanted to switch, and they had promised other guys they would host. But if you notice, the year after I did it, Arnez J did it, but they brought me back to help him. I don't know if you remember that, but the numbers was great. And that's when I had my man, who was, rest in peace, Ronaldo Ray, who was he was really my mentor. And man, he was just telling me different things to do. And it was crazy because it was working. You know, like he said, look, when you go on stage, shift your body to the right. Don't turn around, just go to the right and tell your joke. And I'm like, what is this gonna do? And it worked. I'm like, whoa. So when you got experience and you can see it and people say, just listen. Man, this dude helped me through so much, man. So that's why every time I hosted Comic View, I had him there with me because he would critique stuff and be like, no, don't do that. Don't say this. Don't do that. And when I do exactly what he say, it slams.
He was a coach. He was like Phil Jackson or something.
That was my
like
man, man. That was my man. I can't even lie, man. He was, because he came up with Red Fox, Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, all them. So he just helped me out a lot, man. And I made sure they took care of him.
They don't know the name Ronaldo Ray. It's you want some too, old man?
Yeah.
No, that's
Okay,
that's
that's even know the
Ray.
name.
On
Yeah.
Friday. You want some of this, old man? No, that was
So-
him, Ronaldo Ray.
Do the young brothers come to you like you
of
did
course.
Ronaldo?
Of course. 85 South. Chico Bean and Carlos Miller and DC Young Fly and also Desi Banks. They all call me all the time. Say, oh gee, what should we do? Should we do this? We do that? I say, no, don't do this. Do this, do that. And they get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're good kids, they're funny, and they're making money.
You know, the thing that I like about that though is while we talked about how the game is different, they do a lot of skits and stuff like that for social media. Those guys reaching back out to you, it seems like they want to understand the craft of being a comedian, being on stage. And that's where something like that never gets lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because even though the game has changed a little bit where they might do some skits and all this other stuff, you still got to know how to get out there, get on the road, get on stage.
Got to know the basics. You got to know the basics. I learned years ago. I was looking at James Brown because when I was a kid, I was a James Brown fanatic. And James Brown said, just go out there and grab him. He said, once you get him that first 30 seconds, you got him. He said, you can do anything after that. And he's right. So I tell the comedian, go out there and grab him. Don't go out there, you know, man, we need to take care of these kids, man. These females, don't go out there with that. Go out there and grab them and get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because once you grab their attention, you can say anything. They're going to listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, though. I enjoy dealing with the younger guys. I always tell them, I say, just a couple of things you got to keep straight. That's your business. Make sure you pay your taxes. And make sure you take care of your family. And that's the key thing. And you'll be all right.
Yeah.
You in that rare era where you did, like, you guys talking Comic View, but you did Def Jam, the Apollo, like you hit every major stage
man.
That comedians would want to hit. Like, comedians can't hit the Def Comedy Jam stage today and it be what it was back in 1993, 1992, whatever it was. Like, it was a different monster when you were coming.
It was straight monster, especially with the Apollo. And then one thing about the Apollo, it was in New York. So if you weren't from New York or you weren't from Philly, you weren't from Jersey, you weren't from Connecticut, they didn't show you no love. You know, this brother from me, like, oh, this country joke. You know, you from Alabama. And then I walked out, I said, look, I might be country. I said, but I got something for you. Because Steve Harvey had told him, so listen, I'm gonna let you know right now, y'all need to put your seatbelts on because this one right here, you don't want to fool with, you know. And I went out there and the dude, oh man, this country dude, wow, I woke him out. Rode him like a Jordache horse. You hear me playing? You remember Jordache? But it went well. When I got their attention, they're like, whoa, this dude is serious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to go get him. You can't be scared. Just go get him.
Yeah, man. Straight up. Like Short said, let Bruce.
That's right. You know, Too Short lived in Atlanta. You know, and you know, him and Lil Jon. You know, first Too Short did Shake That Monkey. You know what I'm saying? It was like, all the skinny girls let Bruce get it. Then the Yin Yang came back with Lil Jon said, get crunk with it, get loose with it. Like Short said, let Bruce get it. And that's how we do in the South.
Yeah.
Like we just show love. Like for everybody, show love to everybody, and that's what it's all about because it's money for everybody.
And I just said the lyric because it's iconic, number one. And I want to ask you. I mean, obviously you're already famous, but hearing your name in a song that was so prevalent, well, 2 songs that were so prevalent at the time in the clubs. Did you see like an increase or a different demographic?
Yes,
locked into Bruce.
Yes, and with the women, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
hey, the big girls. What's up? Nothing. What we can do is look at a workout tape. That's the only thing we can do. Because we can eat and you get that last biscuit, it's gonna be a problem. You know what I'm saying? I want the biscuit. Don't you grab that biscuit. But let me tell you now. I'm gonna tell y'all a secret so you all know. Biggie put me on a song, and people don't realize it.
What song?
It's a Hypnotized, and you have to hear the song. And I can tell you when the verse come in, but Biggie did it first.
Okay.
And people when they hear it, because when I did a show in New York with the Breakfast Club, and they said, "How did you feel when Biggie put you in the song?" And I didn't think they knew it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, man, I opened up for Biggie back in Jacksonville, Florida, back in the day, and I was doing it was a rap show, but I hosted the show." Okay. And Biggie wanted to see me, and I wanted to see him. I never met him. So I'm on stage clowning. I'm joning people, clowning. And he went outside, came back. He was right. You know what I'm saying? He said, "I swear you're funny for real. That's my word." Oh, you know what I'm saying? Bro, you need some NyQuil. I don't know what's going on, Dayquil or something. And he did, man. So, when you get a chance, I want you to play.
Now, that's the first thing I would do.
I want you to hear, man. Yeah, I'm going to tell you when they come in. It's at the beginning of the song. And people, they miss it. But if you listen to what he say, you know what he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm saying I can't even get past it. I'm trying to think of
I know D-Lo got it.
Yeah, we getting there.
I mean, D-Lo a bad dude, man.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah, bad dude.
That's a legend.
I know it, man.
That's a legend.
Light skin, good looking. You know what I'm saying? They ruled the 80s and 90s. Light skin. Woo!
Hold on, man. What are we doing here? Oh, you can't hear it. I forgot. Hold on. Turn it over.
My Detroit players, Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn. Dead right, if the head right, Biggie there every night. Papa been smooth since days of under rules.
Turn back up.
Never choose to. Bruce Cruz who do something to us. Talk go through us. Girls walk to us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Y'all know, just a little black history.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
I learned something today.
I feel like a baby that can see right now. Like, that's crazy.
Like a goo-goo and a gaga. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That is,
it was crazy because he told me, like, I'm going to put you down for real. When people say,
yo, that
like,
impression is killing me.
Like, whatever. That's my word, Oh, but I'm going to get you this Dayquil. I got something in the car. I want you to take it. But he did, man. And I never forget, I'm breaking this up. You remember the Def Jam 25th anniversary?
Mm-hmm.
DL and Dave Chappelle was hosting.
Yeah.
And Dave was up there clowning and everything.
Yeah.
And I saw Puffy. I did. He was there. And the first thing he did, he didn't even speak. He put both his hands together and he bowed. He said, "You are the king, man." He said, "People don't realize it, He said, "You're the man." He said, "Biggie loved you." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he showed me love, went on, but I never been to the party.
I was gonna say he didn't invite you to a party after that, did he?
I can't go to the party.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm from the hood, man. We start swinging in there, you know what I'm saying? Boy, I do a windmill in there. Let me tell you something. They'll think I'm Spider-Man in that bad boy. Yeah, man. No. We don't play them games. You know what I'm saying? We old school, man. Yeah.
The correlation between that though goes to that time, right? Because Biggie, one of the biggest rap artists of all time.
He was, man.
You're on Comic View.
Yeah.
The symmetry between just BET, right?
Yeah.
Like, because the basement, like that's where we got a lot of our stuff. So
Absolutely.
Biggie looking at you like, I watch you every day, or I watch you every night. And you looking the same way. It's the symmetry that, because things are different now. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but things are different. You don't have a BET where everybody convenes, so to speak.
Right.
Where, you may not get DC Young Fly linking up with Kendrick or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's interesting
and
that's how that went out.
With Biggie, see, Puffy knew when he got Biggie, he knew he had something, because before Biggie, it was Craig Mack. You remember Craig Mack?
Yeah.
Craig Mack. Puffy just dropped Craig Mack. It was like Craig Mack was the man.
The Mac attack. It was supposed to be both of them.
Yeah. When he saw Biggie, he was like, "Look at man, take care of yourself, man." He just dropped it. You know, and that really hurt Craig because Craig Mack sold 5 or 6 million just in New York.
Yeah.
Just in New York alone.
Yeah.
You know, so and then he was a cool dude. Different looking. He was different.
He was God bless him. God rest his soul.
Come on now. You know,
yeah.
You look at him cold, run out your eyes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Cold is coming
looking. Come on.
God rest him. He's rest in peace. You know,
Yes,
Craig,
sir. Yes,
you know what I'm saying? But you know, it's a lot of rappers in New York that sold 7, 8 million, you know, CDs, but you don't know them nowhere else.
Yeah.
They make it just in New York. Come on the West Coast, you're like, who is this?
So we have this discussion all the time about French Montana.
Yeah.
And he's what you talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's not from
nationally out here, like French don't really have that much of a following, but in New York.
New York. And he's not from France. I you know. So brother,
I'm not sure where the French Montana.
Don't speak a lick of French. Yeah. But look, I don't know if he do or not, but he's not from France. He's not from Paris. You know. And in New York, though, he's the man. They love him.
Yeah.
They love him. You know, but in Atlanta, they'd be like, who?
Right.
See, Atlanta's straight south. So, you know, when you got Outkast, you got Goody Mob, you got UGK. That's the South in Atlanta. You know, Ludacris, T.I. So I know all these guys. I know them.
Jeezy, I love Jeezy.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
Jeezy
go.
Dude,
all these dudes in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's the same thing though, right?
Yeah.
Like
Atlanta's the joy, man.
Yeah.
You know, you like when I see Goody Mob, you know, all of them show me love. You know, I'm like their big brother. I'm a lot older than them. Yeah. You know, they young fellas. You know, I'm an old school player.
See, that's the thing though. Like all those guys, when you at the top of the food chain like that, you talking about Craig Mack and Big a second ago. Those two didn't get along.
No,
like
not
those
at all.
Two were vying to be the one. Do you did you deal with that in the?
I knew a lot of people that hated me, but I didn't. I just kill them with kindness. I knew a lot of them didn't like me. I just what's happening, baby? You know, I go up to them like we partied together. They cannot stand it. They can't do nothing but speak. What you gonna do? I'm not speaking to you. I'm like, what's up? What is like? What is going?
I'm not talking to you. I'm jealous.
Yeah. You know, I used to go in comedy clubs in L.A. It was the Improv in L.A. right on Melrose. It was the Improv. Been there for years. Been there about 50 years. And when I walk in the door, I can see them whispering. You know, I said, "What's up?" I said, "I see y'all talking." I said, and I mess with them. I said, "Have any of y'all been up yet?" They be like, "No." I said, "Well, I'm going up. You might as well go home." I used to pick on them because I let them know if I go up, ain't nothing else left.
Yeah.
And I did it to get in their head. You know what I'm saying? Because it don't take all that. You ain't got to hate me, man. Why don't you just be my partner? I can help you.
Yeah. Now I'll ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you to remove yourself because as a legend like you are, just a talent like you are, you're always gonna put yourself, you know, up there as your favorites, right? So remove yourself. Give me your 5 favorite comedians.
Okay.
It ain't even have to be the best. Just your 5
I'm gonna give you, my favorite one is Tommy Davidson. Tommy Davidson.
Did you miss me?
Makes me laugh. Tommy Davidson makes me laugh out loud. And let me give you some more. Tony Roberts. Tony Roberts. He's from Detroit, but he lives here.
Yeah, he does.
He makes me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Mike Epps, who I train.
Okay.
Makes me laugh out loud. Now, my last one. You know, of course, we all love Richard Pryor. We all love Bill Cosby. We all love Red Fox. But when I grew up, I liked Milton Berle. And people thought I was crazy. I'm from the hood, and they're like, "Man, you like Milton Berle, the white dude?" You know, I'm like, "Yeah." You know, I'm gonna tell you why I liked him. He was quick. He was witty. He was fast. If you ever look at the Dean Martin roast, they'll talk about him. He'll sit there and laugh. But when he got up, it was over. He destroyed everybody on the panel. Milton Berle was, man, they call him Uncle Milton. And that was one of my favorite comedians in the world. Of course, I love Richard Pryor. Right, you know what I'm saying? We knew Richard Pryor, but my uncle was the funniest dude in the world to me, man. My uncle's 5 feet tall, about a 97 in the waist. Look like an egg with a belt on, you know what I'm saying? But that was my partner, man. That was the funniest dude, because, man, he was funny, man.
Yeah.
And he was just my dude. He taught me about life, man. He taught me about everything, how to treat people and being nice. He had a slogan. He said, the only thing free in life is being nice. That's the only thing free. Don't cause nothing. And that's how he was. So that was my dude.
You know, one of my favorites is, man, and thankfully he's got like some pop culture moments that'll live forever. Robin Harris is one of them.
Man. Only thing about Robin didn't like comedians that was funny. If you was unfunny, he loved you. But if you was funny, he don't want nothing to do with you.
Really?
Yeah. It's a lot of that, man. They look at you sideways. Because they want to be the funniest dude. But there's so many funny guys out here and women. So you might as well face the music. Look at Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart worth what, $700 million now? At one time, he wasn't doing it like he thought he should. He was getting ready to quit the business. I said, no, you can't quit. You got to keep going. Look at the next year. Look what happened. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you need that push.
Yeah.
You need that push to just make it happen.
It seems like so much of comedy's inflection. Like the thing I remember so much about Robin Harris is his delivery was just so weird.
Yeah.
It was like dry, and it wasn't like he was doing comedy. It was like he was just talking trash to you.
He was talking, and you could not talk him. You be in a club and you yell at him, he gonna tear you up. He used to kill Robert Townsend. He used to kill him. Kill him on stage. Robert would yell out something, he would wear him out, ride him like a Jordan horse. You know what I'm saying? So he was the man. Robin Harris was the man. But he didn't like you. If you were funny, you look at your
It's so much of Kevin Hart is inflection. Like it's his over the top delivery of stuff that makes people.
Kevin just repeat himself. He said, it was two dudes. It was two dudes down the street. It was two dudes by himself. That's how he do.
Yeah.
So he builds up on the joke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I just go get them.
And I love that about comedy as well, is just the different styles.
It is
different ways of telling the story.
If everything was the same, it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah.
If all of us looked alike, it wouldn't be nothing interesting about it. When you see different looking people, you know, like when you see somebody really bigger than you, you're like, oh my God, what did he eat? You know, bruh, slow down. You know what I'm saying? But it needs to be different. You know, I see some strange people here, man. There's some strange people in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's some country stuff here too. Now I'm from the South. When I saw a sofa on the front porch.
Do you know where you were at? Were you like far away from here?
We was over there by Fox News.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay.
That checks out.
Yeah.
That checks out.
A sofa is on
out
the
there on
front
Fruit
porch.
Ridge.
Then I bought a
Yeah.
new sofa.
Yep.
Put the oven on the front porch.
That's right.
Put a chain on it and made a swing.
He was in the hood.
Come on,
come on,
No,
man.
he was in the hood.
Yeah.
Man, Fox News was gated up like we going to the penitentiary. Look at. I said, what is y'all got all these bars up? The lady said, yeah, have you looked across the street yet?
He was in the hood. Yeah.
So, you know.
My family grew up over there. I went to school over there.
Really?
He was in the hood.
Yeah, man, that's cool. The hood don't bother me. But I wouldn't want to live there. If the hood I grew up in, there was an area in Atlanta called the Bluff. And I wouldn't move there to save my life. I wouldn't. If they gave me $1 million home, 24-hour security, I would not move back over there. But see, now they doing they done took it over. What they call it, regentrification.
Gentrification. Yeah.
White guys are jarking. I'm like, you
Walking
don't know where
dogs
you
and
at.
everything.
You don't know where you at, bro. The stupid people are still over here, so be careful. You know what I'm saying? But I drive through there and just look, and I'm like, wow. And people see you. I don't care. I have a Sprinter van. Tenant was the windshield tenant. You can't see it. The dude say, "There go Bruce right there." He saw me in the Sprinter, and I'm sitting in the back. How did you see me in the Sprinter? So it's just, you know, you got to get out the hood. You got to get out. You can't stay there.
When entertainers or anybody come through here, I don't know if you know, this is a sports show that you're on right now.
Oh yeah, I know it.
You a sports fan?
Yeah, man. Who your football team?
Come on, man. You see
okay. Well, who's yours?
I don't have one.
Okay, because if you said Dallas, it'd have been a fight here. I'd have started the fight. You Dallas, eh?
No, I don't do
okay.
that.
Okay.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Look,
don't do that.
In a past life, he ain't with him no more. He's not with him no more.
Yeah, pre.
Oh my God, they terrible.
Pre Colin Kaepernick, I was.
You ain't gonna believe. You ain't gonna believe who I was. I like Green Bay. I like Green Bay. Come on, man. You can put me out the studio, but it's okay.
Really?
And I'm from Atlanta, and I don't care nothing about the Falcons.
So I want to be clear. Your two quarterbacks are Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
I like Love.
Well, Jordan Love don't count.
Like
He hates Jordan Love, but we rock.
Well, let me tell you, man.
I
went to Pittsburgh last year, and they invited me out to the camp, and man, it was love. I mean, the coach, I didn't realize he was a fan. He brought me in. I'm in there with the players. They ain't changing clothes, but nigga, I'm like, oh, bro, wait a minute now. Put some clothes on. Put a towel around. You know what I'm saying? I ain't used to this, bro. You know what I'm saying? But it was love. And the owner walks in. You would never thought he was the owner. Had on some Hun boots, short pants, old Hun jacket. But when I touched his hand, it was soft as cotton. This brother ain't did.
It does not work.
He don't even know what a broom is. You know what I'm saying? But he was nice. He said, "Thanks for coming, man." Yeah. They had me they made me a Bruce Pittsburgh jersey. You know, and it was just love. The coach, man, he was so cool. And I'm gonna tell you what's crazy, Rick. It was a dude. They brought him to Pittsburgh, right? So even if they don't play, they get $80,000 a month, right? All they gotta do is come to practice. He called the dude and said, "Man, where you at?" He said, "Oh, I need to be there." You're supposed to be at practice. So the dude said, "Man, this dude here didn't show up. He's supposed to be at practice, you know." And somebody whispered his ear. He said, "He just cut it." Just cut it. How
They don't play.
$80,000 a month? All you gotta do is come to practice. Come on, man. When I was a stripper, I didn't make money.
Yeah. Hey, we appreciate you, man.
Hey, man,
Like,
thank you, man. I mean, I appreciate you guys having me on, man, because I'm actually a cool dude, man.
no doubt.
Very cool
Dude, man.
Oh,
No
my
doubt.
bad. Well, tonight.
Yeah,
Tonight,
Punchline.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
and
thank
Sunday.
you.
Friday,
Thank you.
Saturday, Sunday, 2 shows Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, because Monday I am out like 8 tracks.
Yeah, but them,
So I'm letting everybody know you need to come to the show because I've been here, ain't nothing to do.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
When's the last time you
They
was at?
closed the Walgreens across the street from the
Well,
store. I don't know.
yeah,
Last time I was there, everybody,
Oh, that's hilarious. They
everybody was stealing. I'm like, look, let me get something.
That's hilarious.
You know what I'm saying? The Walgreens is closed. How does Walgreens close?
Yeah.
How does Walgreens close? You know what
They
I'm saying?
said enough.
But the homeless people out here, they got game for you. They put that look on you. You know, they be. If you ever notice, just pull up. They looking normal, but then when they see you pull up at the light, they look come down. They got the sign.
You out there by that Punchline Comedy Club too.
Oh,
You're
my
gonna
God,
get,
man.
you're gonna get
They closed that Walgreens.
Man, hey, man.
those, yeah.
I had a dude tell me, he said, "Big man ain't 8 in 2 weeks." I said, "You still live?" I said, "Man, ain't 8 in 2 hours. I'm about to die."
The legend, Bruce. Punchline Comedy Club. 2 shows tonight, 2 shows Saturday. My man's doing a show on Sunday. Again, man, you are a living legend. We
Thank you,
appreciate
brother.
you so much.